Honeywell, Mr. Cake. I see Honeywell is here to do a presentation, so.
Yes, so everybody remembers Carolyn Jackson and her team
Yeah.
previously,
Yep.
and overviews the
Welcome back.
ESA program,
Thank you.
Energy Savings Improvement Program. And the committee asked that we get back and do a deeper dive into the financing piece of this. So Carolyn is here with her team tonight to talk to you folks about.
I don't.
This is down, because I'm missing down. Oh, she's got extras.
Okay. Everybody's back. Oh, good.
So we'll turn the floor over to Carolyn and her team, and we'll talk in depth about how the funding and financing is handled, so the board can give this further consideration. Carolyn?
Oh, thank you so much. I think I remember. Thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to be here. Start low and then I get really loud. So again, Caroline Jackson from Honeywell, and I have with me Tim Labrick, who's our lead project manager, and one of our project managers, Catherine.
Excuse, I'm sorry, Gail, I think we have too many people here now, because Chrissy's here.
Michelle Scott.
Oh, Michelle Scott's not here, okay, all right, I didn't want
Yeah,
to.
no, that's
fine.
Just tell me if I have that.
No, I don't know what, Michelle didn't call it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. No, I know these things are very important. So, Jerry said that you'd like to understand more about how these are financed, right?
Right.
And I just put together a few slides to kind of keep myself in line. I only have one new acronym, which is Local Finance Board, LFB. So this slide I had up last time, and the reason I repeated the slide, I added one more bullet to it, is that New Jersey, the legislation for Energy Savings Improvement Program in New Jersey was specifically designed to be a way for schools to fund these projects through either a refunding bond or a municipal lease. And you have to follow these steps in the process, which then allows you to have your project approved by the Board of Public Utilities, and then the different finance companies and your financial advisor will be involved and help guide you on this as well, to be able to fund future, use future energy savings to pay for the project, right? So you're taking a loan just like you would if you're doing a home equity loan or a mortgage, and then you're using the energy savings, which are already in your budget. That's the key. So this is money that is already in your budget. I'm sorry, I'm not a very loud person. It's already in your budget, and you're just reappropriating it to pay off the loan so you can make smarter decisions that make more financial sense. So for instance, if you have older lights, they're using 300 watts per fixture, you're gonna put in LEDs that are gonna use 100 watts per fixture, but you have to have $3 million to pay for this. Where are you gonna get that $3 million? You're just gonna keep using your old lights and paying a lot of money to the utility company and change lamps and ballast. You're gonna take that money that's already in your budget for energy and pay off the loan that gets you all new lights or new boilers or new chillers or rooftop units. And in addition to the energy savings, you're funding it with rebates, if there's some grants available, and different things that we'll find as we look and understand your schools better. So it's really to understand that the ESA legislation was put in place just for this reason. And there's assurances and steps you have to take to get approved to get this privilege to finance 15 to 20 years. But it's not new money to the district. It's money that's just being reappropriated to pay the loan. Does that make sense?
I have a question, which I think some other people might be thinking.
Yeah.
So let's just say the project that we want to do is $1 million.
Yes.
Okay, so we have in our budget cost. We know that all of our lights, electricity, our costs to run our district costs us, we think, $1.2 million. I know I'm just coming up with a number, right? $1.2 million. So now we utilize your company and we do certain replacements to upgrade so that we have more efficiency, and the efficiency then will allow us to have spent less money. I want to explain it in layman terms, less money.
Mhm.
So it would be the goal then that $1 million that we spent would be found within the money that we are no longer spending on the cost for, let's say, the electricity.
Correct. So here's the graph that I have that kind of helps with that.
Okay.
That's exactly it. I mean, I want to.
No, I wanted, because I
So
think
you
that's
guys
when
are
you came last
spending-
time, that was the question. Where are we, how are we gonna get the money to be able to lay out the money, to spend the money, to take the money
Right.
back?
And again, you want to make, you want to follow all the rules, right?
Right,
So this
absolutely.
was put in place because, and every state has legislation similar to this. Little tweaks are different in different states, but they all have legislation that does this. So in your case, you're spending just under $2 million on energy.
Okay.
If you saved, I think I did like a 30% savings, something like that. If you save 700,000 in energy, we would structure your loan to be, 700 plus if there's some maintenance cost reductions, like $900,000 a year. And again, if you do solar, if we find that there's like some really inefficient boilers that we can change to a very.
So you utilize, I would imagine, for each structure that you replace, whether it be solar or HVAC, you must have a formula, I would
Yes.
assume, that calculates the cost savings.
Yes, well,
Okay.
we have people, actually, Emily and Paul, that were here last
Yes,
time.
they were.
That will do all the calculations,
Okay.
but then to protect you, what the Board of Public Utilities did as part of this legislation, it's required that a third-party engineer is hired who understands all the calculations, understands all the efficiencies, follows the international protocol for measurement verification, and takes what we do and they check our work and provides you a certification that they did this right, they did this as per BPU, Board of Public Utilities guidelines. And then we take that report plus our investment grade audit, we send it to the BPU, then they say it's good. And that's what that approval is what the finance companies look for to say, okay, we can give them a 15 to 20-year loan. And so there is two ways to fund this.
The lease.
And it's been changing since, everyone's hearing the finance rates are all over the place. So traditionally, we always did lease purchase. I know this is a lot of words. I'm sorry. Sometimes
I think she might have a question
Yeah.
before you move on.
This is just a random example?
Or is this our
our
example?
numbers?
Those are, I don't know what your savings are yet, because we haven't done that.
But is that our cost
Yes. yeah.
currently,
Well,
1.9 million?
it's basically
Okay.
the bills we had.
That's fine.
Jerry's getting us some more bills. We had like the supply side. We
Okay,
had the
Right, don't knock-
transportation side, not the supply side. Yeah.
We did a first blush with that.
Yes.
If the board decides to continue, then there will be a deep dive where every bill will be analyzed.
so these are approximately our
Yes.
numbers,
Gives you an
something
idea.
in the ballpark, but
Yes.
this is us.
They're not wrong, but it's not detailed
It's
to
not
the
detailed.
exact.
We're waiting for a few more bills to
Right.
make sure it's all right.
Good,
And
thank you.
then the last time I was here, I don't have a slide in here, but I did look and I kind of did a lower case scenario, very
yes, you did.
conservative with 7 million and like
That's
a little higher, 14. It could be higher than that. I like to keep it, but that's a big range. That's like with solar, without solar, like, I just wanted to give you an idea. So lease purchase traditionally is how we mostly, if you look at the history of ESIP over the last, since 2009, that's mostly how projects have been funded. And a lease purchase is just like a mortgage, right? You do a RFP, financial advisor assists with that, and then you just basically get a rate and pick the lowest rate. There's no cost to the district until the project is complete. Typically, finance payments start after like a year or so when the installation is complete. It depends how.
Is that your time frame in general?
It really depends how the project falls,
Right.
because we look for summers, we're finishing some big work. Chiller work gets done in the heating season,
Gotcha.
heating work gets done in the summer, before October 15th. So we don't know the answer to that yet, but it's usually about a year. Recently, lease purchase agreements have been a little higher utility rate. And I'm not a financial advisor, I'm supposed to give you a big, I can't advise you, but I can tell you what's happening. Refunding bond, you're probably like, what's a refunding bond? Like, I had never used one until this last year, but it's basically, typically districts hear that if they have high interest bonds, they're refinancing. But the BPU has allowed you to use this mechanism to fund energy obligations projects. So it's a secondary way you can do it. So in the larger projects, sometimes the process works and you can get a better rate. Like for one project, the interest rate was like 4 or something %, and they were able to get 3.7 using a refunding bond. A project down in South Jersey, it's just with Clearview.
I have a question. Are there any rebates or grants currently that you're aware of? Or-
Yes, so PSE&G has custom rebates for the prescriptive rebates, which is you change this light bulb or you change this motor, you get this much money. So we calculate all the light bulbs and motors and everything in the prescriptive rebate first. And then the custom rebate would be more like a boiler, which needs a little bit more information, right? And the custom rebates are there as well. It's how many KW or how many amounts of gas you're saving times a rate, and then you get.
And that rebate comes off when the work is completed, not prorated after we sign up.
Yeah, so, so the,
And it's
once we,
immediate,
We've
or
done,
we have to do it
we've
over
done those
years?
3 days before. You might remember we presented some checks and so on.
Yes.
For lighting projects we've done ourselves. So when they are complete, we then have the utility, they send an inspector out, and we literally go through and validate that we've done all the work. They sign off and then we get our check.
And the grants?
so the grant, right now, there's nothing that comes to mind. We just finished a big ventilation grant. I think you got one of the SSBBE
Yes.
grants. We're always looking. There are some federal grants that may or may not apply. They're hard to get. They're like usually for rural or like disadvantaged. So you have to see if you fit or, you know, somehow come up with a magical application that fits their needs at the time the grant comes out. But we will look for grants. There's also, like I said, the solar, there's different ways to do solar now. There's a really big grant right now for the Inflation Reduction Act, which is allowing schools to purchase solar. I know you have purchased some, but you can get this 30, 40, or 50% grant, again, depending on the demographics and the makeup.
Mr. Tate, we had discussed in prior PG&T meetings that the solar SRACs were not worth putting solar on the roof in other facilities.
Correct.
What would make it good to do now? Do the SRACs go up or?
No, the SRECs have not gone up, but this is a lease program, so we own the solar system at Oak Tree School. So we started that in 2008, so we're on year 16 now, we still haven't paid it off. After you reach, as we reported, I think last year, once we reach a certain point, the rates
That's
drop
go down.
significantly. So it's an investigation they have to do.
Yeah, so there's
I
two
mentioned-
ways. There's a lease purchase way that you can do it, which is just a lower rate, and they have to guarantee to sell you a certain amount of energy. They just they lease your land or roofs to put the solar.
Gotcha.
But there's also a new grant with the Inflation Reduction Act. So we'll look at it both ways, look at your roofs, see where the opportunities are. What I'll typically come back with, I was just telling this to Jerry, is I usually come back with, here's a project that you can do with no solar. Maybe it's 7 million. Here's a project with a PPA. Maybe we get up to $8 million worth of investments. Here's if you buy it yourself. It's a little more if you're buying solar, but you can get 12 million. Like, I'll show you what we can do. I'll give you some options and then we can mix and match a little on the measures and based on your priorities. But it's a little ways away.
Yeah, no,
We've got to
right.
get through the investor.
And I have one more question. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, yeah, one second. I understand that a solar company won't invest in your solar panels if your roof is
Correct.
over a certain amount of years.
Right.
Now, that is not something this would cover. So we'd have to invest in new roofs on some of our schools in order to qualify for those panels. Am I correct?
Possibly.
Okay.
So when we look at the ages of your roofs, there's times we've been able to do a small repair to get another 15-year warranty. Sometimes we just leave it off because it's in the middle of the warranty. We don't want to touch it. We'll help and look at all that. And we just don't want to put solar where you could have a failure to roof and it wouldn't be
Right.
covered under warranty.
Right.
You want to have at least a 15-year warranty to match the term of the solar.
And how many of our schools have a 15-year warranty right now?
We have dozens upon dozens of roofs because the buildings have been built in
Sections.
sections.
Different sections,
But
okay.
perfect example is Applegarth, with the ROD grant, all the roofs are.
Gonna be new.
Gonna be brand new.
You're starting at ground zero at
Good.
Applegarth, so there's an opportunity.
Yeah, I want the public to hear that. Gail, you had a question?
Yeah, you mentioned there has to be a third-party engineer involved. Who
Yeah.
pays for that, us or your
Yeah,
company?
so that is the only thing that's not paid for through the ESEP because it has to be third party because they're checking our work. So we'll give you a sample request for quote. There's about 10 that do it constantly throughout the state. You know, some are quicker and faster and, you know, it's not, I'm trying to think,
What's
but this
the-
size,
what-
it would be like,
Last time she was here, I think she said that wasn't a huge expense.
no, I would say like 8 to 12,
$1,000.
15,000. Yeah. It's
So
small.
10,000 just to say in the middle.
Yeah. I never, you know, things change all the time, so I hate quoting prices like that, but it's not, it's a small amount in the grand scheme.
Sure,
It's a
so that would be
small
the
amount in
one
grand
cost and then the
scheme.
rest is, with the whole project, it becomes the project.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's just, it's good that there's checks and balances in the project to support districts. They want people to do this. They want, you know, the energy plan, they want to save energy, they want people to feel comfortable with it. So can I just go back to the funding
Yeah.
bond
Oh,
real
yes,
quick?
please.
Because I think it's just important to understand, because it's different than a bond, because it's specially carved out reason to use a refunding bond. And there's a couple of steps with that, that your financial advisor, your bond counsel will help. And I always go to, there's a local finance board meeting, you have to put an application in. Then they give you an approval, they ask questions, they're very positive, they understand Energy Savings Improvement Program and will be very supportive. They'll, and then that one is a little bit more costly for the bond and financial advisor fees, because there's a little more work up front. The lease purchase is more of just a bid and it's a little less costly, but they're gonna tell you based on the month that we're getting ready, like, you know, within 2 to 3 months before we're ready to close on your financing, we'll look at the market, they'll look at it. It's not me, right? It's just your financial advisor, but they'll run our project both ways and advise you on the best way to go.
Right, because it's all about, it may be upfront more of a cost, but long run, over the lease purchase amount payments, we would be paying more money, so we have to see.
We'll look
the
at,
balance.
they'll look at both ways, and sometimes it's really, you know, it's just, it's 50-50.
We have a bond counsel that we work with regularly.
Yeah, so like, again, so that's just really important to understand.
Right, so when people see bond, they automatically think it's more money, but based upon the interest rates, because our interest rates are so high now.
Right. And the bond rates have been lower, but this is gonna be an interesting year.
Yes,
You
it
know,
will be.
There could be changes, so we'll watch that and figure out what the best rate is. The other thing too is that, it's, you know, it just depends on the market. It'll just depend on the market then, but they have information all the time. Anything else?
Gonzalo has a question.
Yeah, it says here that no referendum is required for this. Is there a cap to the amount or?
No, it's really, it's your energy savings, like energy savings rebates and grants, you know, we just have to, that's what the third party review, that's what the BP looks at, as long as it's all covered by that. Then there's no referendum required, and it's because you're taking energy savings are already approved in your budget, and then you're paying it back with that. So, what I was gonna say is the larger the project, the more likely a refunding bond would be worthwhile spending that extra fee.
Because the way the interest rates work.
And the way interest rates, but the smaller projects, that's the way it used to be, now it's a little changed, but.
Do you prefer when you do this, so you'll come in and you'll have the opportunity, you know, to come up with a number? I remember you saying last time, I mean, of course, in our case, we're gonna spend it on facilities because that's what we need, but you did say that people, you know, can put in a stadium. Remember you made that
Well,
comment?
they did a floor. They wanted, and actually they were saving energy because it was a floor that had, they were running ventilation all the time. because
Right,
of
so
the product in
it saved the money. So
So-
my question is, when you come in, if the committee wants to move forward and you come in, will you look at everything at this point? Okay, that's what I wanted to know. So we're not gonna piecemeal it. You're gonna come in and do an entire review.
So what we'll do is we'll look for the energy savings plan. We look at everything that we can see.
Yeah, and the public is listening, so it's important that we're
Yeah,
not
we
the only
will
ones.
look at
that understand.
everything. We will come back to you once we like kind of narrow down and hear your priorities. For, you know, we don't want to engineer everything to the fullest extent if you're just not interested in it.
Correct.
Right? So we'll do like, we call it like 30, 60, 90, whether it's exactly 30%, 6%, 9%, but we'll kind of come in like, okay, here's where we are, here's what we're thinking. Yes. Wait, you forgot this. Okay, yeah, we got that. And then we'll look at it all. We'll give you budgets and benchmarks for everything, but we will narrow down. We're not going to engineer every single
Right.
solution because that wouldn't be, you know, make sense if it was something you weren't interested in.
Gary, as a facilities manager, what is your opinion on what our weakest link energy-wise is? Would it be lighting?
Lighting generates the most savings.
Correct.
And it's the cheapest and quickest.
Okay.
So the lighting savings, you'll have an abundance of money there, which will then support replacing boilers. You know, replacing some of the boilers aren't gonna generate enough money themselves to pay for the cost of the boiler, whereas the lights will give you an excess. And then we decide, the board decides how they wanna use that. You could decide, okay, the lighting is gonna generate hypothetically $5 million. Instead of spending $5 million on boilers and air conditioning units, let's spend $4 million on that, and let's take $1 million and build a playground, or whatever
Right,
the committee desires.
Yeah,
okay.
there is like a 15% non-energy savings like earmark. And honestly, most people don't really ever get to that 15%. They're usually
Because they
doing,
have so
they
much
have
cost
another
for everything
stuff.
they need.
And so I'm never figuring out, is it 15% of the project? Is it 15% of the savings? Like, we've never really got there. But sometimes something slips in, like the floors. Like, again, we could assign energy savings, so it didn't have to be with that 15%. One business administrator was trying to get me to do an elevator. That was fun. for about like a month till we realized like that wasn't gonna happen. Like he really, really wanted it, but it didn't happen. But again, we can be creative. Like another school had budget for generator. And so we ran the generator project with the ESA project just because we were doing bids and project management anyway. So like something like that, maybe like internet or maybe security, there needs something to be done. Like we're bidding all these projects. If there's something we can fit in that matches or has a similar vendor, like if there's usually has to be a reason that it makes sense. Because I know you're very competent to do all these things yourself, you know? So,
Yeah, we have other needs outside of just the.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So, let me just see what else I had here. There's no upfront fees. Everything's usually, once the project is done, you start paying. When you do a funding bond, it's a little different though. They kind of schedule your payments, kind of start in a year. And sometimes the financial advisors will advise to make an interest payment during the installation if you have it in your budget.
They don't lower your payment for.
Yeah, well, they just want to get you started paying because it does help the whole project. The more you pay, yeah, pay. And then I know this is small up here, but I just wanted to show you what a sample cash flow looks like, right? So just if you can imagine, this was an $8.2 million project. This was a lease purchase. I know it's really small, and I apologize, but and then so you have a bond counsel fee in there. Again, sometimes I use a contingency and rounding just because so we can work as we go through all the iterations of this. We just want to keep like the price to a simple price. So it came to 8.4, right? It just made it easier to talk about in this cash flow. And then, so you have your annual energy savings calculated. There's some operational savings. 2 years is mechanical savings. So if you have a boiler you've been putting money into every year to keep going, that would be an operational savings for mechanical. We'd identify that and agree on that together. And then you can take lighting savings for 5 years. There is a proposal at the Board of Public Utilities to take the operational savings to 10 years. I've been told it's coming, hopefully sooner rather than later, but I don't know. And then, so we total the savings and then you make sure your loan costs, that's the board costs, are greater, less than the savings. So you always have to have a positive cash flow every year. And that's the goal of the project. So like that money's in your budget, you just reappropriate to pay the loan. Usually pay a little more upfront because you take those rebates. So this one had 100 and I think it's 66. There are a few different rebates we have there.
166, 8, and then 8.
Yeah, I can't see it myself.
Yeah.
And so you want to pay that down, that pays down your loan. So you take the rebates usually come, where did I have it in year 1? So the rebates, usually within the first year, the rebates are coming back to you and then you use that to pay down your debt as well.
So why wouldn't someone do this? I mean, if everything we're saying here, even in layman terms, is it's money in and money out, this is money that's gonna cost us anyway. We're taking the money it's going to cost us, we're then reallocating that money to pay a loan to make things at a higher level. Safety, efficiency, benefit the environment, fiscally responsible. I mean, I don't work for you, but I'm just saying.
It's a great program. Like I said last time, I'm
the
so
negative.
proud of working with a great program like this.
Yeah, I'm one of those people like,
If
what's
you're
the next
getting-
thank you?
If you're getting if you have a referendum, you can get state aid for some of these, right? But if that's not an option, it's great.
Not
And
this town.
even when people do a referendum, a lot of times will do this before to say, look, we used all the money in our budget as efficiently and best we could, right? We have a large utility budget. We're going to shrink that down and use it to get what we need. And that sometimes gets them a little less referendum. They can get more support for that the next time. People have used it like that. I'm seeing why they wouldn't use it, but some people just, they have the money. They don't need to finance. They do projects every 2 years. They're not struggling
We've
with.
talked about that. So the board in the past has done these capital projects. 2018, we redid the boilers and HVAC at Brookside ourselves. So we didn't need to use a vehicle like this.
Right.
But as we've talked, as the district grew, we took money that was, I would have preferred to have been applied to capital infrastructure and put it
We
on
couldn't.
renovations for students, for trailers, those kind of things, rather than for boilers and those kind of things. And now it's at a point where we have a substantial amount that needs to be addressed, and this is an avenue that provides you to get it done.
I think it's a great avenue, actually.
And
So-
people always ask that question. This seems too good to be true, but it's been done. It's just a way to take future savings, bring them to today, invest it, so that you're, getting the efficiencies and economy of scale of not having to like bid one lighting project at a time, or, mostly if a rooftop unit goes, it's an emergency and you gotta do it quick and it's expensive and you have a crane for one unit. This way, we're looking at all the units, we're getting all the old ones, we have one crane. So there are like economies of scale that happen by doing everything at once in a preventative way versus having to do it as things fail.
Would you have phases, even though I know it says, because this is March and we spoke to you and then you're coming back now. So is this an appropriate phase one schedule?
It's a little off, it's a few months off, I did that sort of, I was trying to think like I was just being very like.
Like
we
if you
did the
have site
best
visit
case
here,
possible.
solar PPA options, would that still happen in April? Or would you have to move that to May?
Yeah, May, June.
Yeah,
probably
that's what I was
June.
thinking.
Yeah, I would say a couple months, just
Okay.
based on what, hearing when you might.
So the
look forward.
process, and it's the
But
committee's
I-
decision, so if it gets moved forward, then it becomes a resolution, the board accepts the contract, and then you move forward
Yes,
with the evaluations you said, right? You go through all the different, and you go through all the buildings at one time and all of them.
So at the next meeting, if the committee was supportive, committee chair, someone could make a motion at the next meeting, say, making a motion to direct administration to start to engage the process, meaning that at the following meeting, we put forth a resolution to engage and we'll start the process.
That would be
Or
April. So it could be March if he, let's say, made the resolution, and then April would be,
Right, if you did it this week, if you made a motion and you got support, then we would do the piece of getting the resolution ready for.
April.
Just want to finally ask one question, and I did ask last time, but I want to, because we're getting into the final station. How does Honeywell get through?
so the project is like, so the project I showed you there, $8 million that's paid for fully with energy savings, that includes our fees. So our fees are in AMIA laid out, and those are maximum fees. So until we sort of know what the scope and the complexity of the project is, like we'll come back to you with a turnkey price, maximum price, no change orders in ESA because we've done this based on what your energy savings are. So once we know what the measures are, our fees will be presented with the measures, with the fees agreed to in AMIA. Like I said, those are maximum. The simpler, you got to figure it out. We also include the engineering in there, all the bidding. We'll ask you for, like a place to meet for pre-bids and like probably have your business administrator, someone there to
Sure.
be
Well, we would
present.
want to have this conversation. If the committee wants to move forward, we would have, a separate conversation and a meeting with the business.
Yeah, but all the fees for everything are included. The only thing that's outside
Is the third
ESA
party.
is a third party. Now, when I come back, if, like you said, roofs have been included, but for whatever reason, roofs are out of control right now. So typically districts have decided to do those themselves, and we're focusing more on things that you can't do yourselves easily, like mechanical to rooftops and things that need engineers, and engineering and different stamp drawings, et cetera. But we can, if we found a roof that we knew was gonna bring you a ton of solar, and we decided together that that was a priority because the warranty was up next year and you didn't have the capital, we could forgo something else and do a roof. Like, we'll look at everything.
So for purposes of just layman terms, you become our general contractor.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And then, but the fees are, like, when we bring you the price, it's that plus project management, plus commissioning, plus engineering, and it's all in there.
So everything.
So is it fair to say that your cost comes out of our energy savings
Correct.
in most of the
Correct.
projects?
Yes, correct, with
All of
everything.
We're not paying anything additional. Only if you have that much savings would we be able to go into that project, because part of it would pay for your fees,
Yep.
service fees, and part of it would be on.
That's correct. Our
Independent
service
savings.
fees will be in everything we present.
So you will not give us, so then, based upon what she just said, you will not give us a cost that would exceed any of the savings in the energy, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
that's what you said,
That's what
okay.
I'm saying there. So our.
That's very
savings would-
important, because if the public is listening, that's a wonderful way. So basically, it's a win-win, because we know that if, for example, you came up, I don't know, $9 million, but then you started looking at each cost, and every variable, you would say, well, we're gonna have to scale this back, and we're not gonna, this is something that's not gonna be put in there, or not gonna be put in there, so that there's no cost to the district, except
Right,
the third
exactly.
party.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna just throw something out there because we're all, going to, so I just did a project where we did that and we came back to a client with an $8 million project. She's like, yeah, but you weren't able to do these 5 things I wanted. I was like, yeah, but you don't have the savings for that.
Okay, good.
She's like, well, show me what, all the things I need, because for her board and her public, she wanted to like say, hey, we need $30 million worth of stuff, but this is what we can afford. And they did have some capital that they wanted to put in because now they're gonna get more roofs, and they're gonna get more solar, and they're gonna get more savings. So it did teach me something, that sometimes you wanna look big and
And then narrow it down.
and then narrow it down, and that's what we'll do, right?
Yeah, that's the
Because,
right way to go.
you know, but whatever we do, what cost you see will include our fees to implement it. If, you know, if you had capital, which I don't know your situation yet, we
Which we
haven't
would
gotten
have,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, so, and then I think that really I put this in just so,
So this is close, but maybe 60 days off.
yeah, and I really wanted you to see like that I didn't redo it again because I probably changed it 4 times before we get to there. But we'll figure out the costs and savings. We'll do a forecasting workshop. This is in April right now. We'll figure out what rebate and grant opportunities. Then we deliver the energy savings plan to your third-party reviewer. It goes to the BPU. From after that, the peer review begins, our J results to board. I don't even think I put the BPU in there, but they're right after. They go with that. And then, so, yeah, that's really it. So we will draft a sample, like, investment grade audit agreement to share with you so that you can look that over.
Sure.
And then I know you have the sample resolutions and everything, but I really, suggest, like, we do work with all the financial advisors, we get all the different bond councils, and if they have any questions, one of the things is that you're choosing to use a co-op, which, again, we act as your professional, and I'm very excited. I'm really excited for what we can bring you. I think we're gonna find a lot of creative things to do, a really good project here. But, if they have any questions, if your bond council has any questions about that, please reach out.
Have any questions, ladies?
I have a question, Pete. This is Chrissy. So what exactly is our upfront cost and what exactly would we be agreeing to? Because we're in the middle of this budget cycle that we are going out to ask for, $2.7 million over the tax levy cap. I just want to understand exactly what we are going to be asking the board to approve and what costs are hard costs that the district is going to have if we move forward with this.
So our development costs are included in the project, which will be paid for fully with the energy savings. We will, so in the Omnia contract, it does outline like the cost for an audit, which we haven't really decided yet, like, right, but that cost only comes forward
If we move.
if you didn't move forward. But we will, on your behalf, have surveyed all your lighting and have an output. We'll survey it all for the solar. We're gonna bring a lot of professionals in. Some are on our team, some are not. That is all, there's no cost for you if you move forward until the project is complete, you've begun your energy savings, and you make your first lease purchase or funding bond payment from the savings, right? We know you could do a lighting project only, it would work, right? So, that cost for the audit, if you didn't move forward, it's usually not even thought of because it never happens. Like, I've never collected one in like 30 years of working. So there's no upfront cost. It's just if, for some reason you just said, we don't want to do this, like, then we would just try to recoup our costs for bringing all these
Which you
surveys in.
provide in the kind, which you just told them you provide details, correct?
Yes, and it's gonna be about a 6-month process probably of surveying and auditing. I mean, hopefully a little less, because I want to get you started as soon as possible. Like, I'd like you to be in the bid cycle so you can start saving and have things installed summer of 25.
Right.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
And the only other cost out of pocket, which we don't know if it's 8,000, 10,000, 12,000, 14,000, is going to be the third party who confirms the cost of what Honeywell says will cost us.
Correct.
I'm just speaking very.
Yeah, no, and again, you can pay yourself back for any professionals. Like, so, like, how in this, I have, like, you can't see it very good, but it's 8.2 million, 35,000.
Yeah.
If you want to put in 15,000 to pay yourself back for that third-party review, as long as this is coming from your financing and not through us, you can do that. Like, so, depending on what your professional costs are, you can make allotments.
Right,
for
so the
that.
800 and change extra at the end of us being in the black would just be less than 15,000. That's the decision we made.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Any other questions?
Questions? Chris, are you good?
Yeah, I think though, before we move this forward to the full board, I wish we would have invited Miss Allen to this meeting, because I think we need to, bring this to the finance committee as well.
I'd be
We
happy to
don't have
make
another, we
the,
don't have another meeting. for it.
Well,
No,
can the
no.
finance committee have a Zoom or something to discuss this subject?
We could if we can invite finance chair.
I'm on finance, so you don't have to discuss with me, I'm all for that.
Oh, okay.
I would just like to get, Miss Allen's opinion on this as well, since she deals with, our finances, and this is something that I'm assuming we're going to have to add something into our budget. Some,
No, no, we do not.
No.
No, we don't have to add anything in the budget. It's not gonna cost us anything out of
Anything.
pocket.
Nothing. So the savings that we would find from updating a light bulb that costs us $5, I'm just saying something ridiculous, a light bulb that costs us $5 to work is only gonna cost us $1. So those $4 is gonna pay for the monies that it costs us to make the light bulb into a dollar light bulb.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost us nothing out of pocket, but I do agree, that if you're welcome, we can sit down and we can have, a Zoom, or if you wanna come in, you're welcome to come back again, it's up to you, with, Mr. Tague, myself, Dr. Lehman,
and I work with business administrators all the time.
yeah, that is not a
Like,
problem. We can
there's-
even have bond counsel on it if we wanted to really step it up to the next level, because we work with our bond counsel all the time. Would you like us to do that, Chrissy?
I think it's worth a conversation. I think this is something new that the district is exploring. We've never explored something like this, and I would just want to make sure that, Miss Allen is comfortable moving in this direction too.
Gail, would you mind sending out an email to your committee explaining this? Maybe,
Send an email to the committee?
yeah, send email to the people on your committee and ask them if.
Well,
they
I'm not in
would-
charge.
Katie, yeah, Katie's the chair. We
All
can
right, so we'll
certainly
ask-
reach out to her.
She's the
I'm saying if
chairperson.
you were here.
I know, but I don't want to overstep.
So perhaps, depending upon how the committee feels, if the committee feels confident and comfortable, it's something that we don't want to wait on. If it works with your schedule, we can get a meeting as early, because we can get a meeting as early as, she's out Wednesday, but she's in Thursday. I'm just saying Thursday morning, I don't know, I'm just coming up with something, so that we don't belabor it, and then we could just have a conversation, so that she feels comfortable with the way we're taking the monies from here, and this is how the money works. She understands, she's a big proponent of lease purchase. I can tell you that right now.
Okay.
That is how we save a lot of money. We're able to do what we do through
Right.
lease purchase, so that's something she's very comfortable with.
So when she's been like, only be able to do 5 years, this allows her to go out.
10.
It allows you to
Right.
get, is it 10? I thought mostly 5, but whatever,
I thought
You said 5, hoping it would be 10.
Yeah, certain projects are allowed to be 10, you said, that's what you
Okay.
said last time.
Oh, no, for us, 15 to 20.
Oh, that's what it was.
But your business administrator is probably used to like just being straddled with a 5-year.
Oh, I
lease.
see, yes.
Yeah, so this will be exciting for her. And again, the refunding bond acts just like a lease purchase. So it's not much different. It's just a little different.
Chrissy, I think what makes them, I'm gonna use the word safe if I may, is because they are backed by the state. So this program is a state-initiated program,
The
if you
Board
want
of
to explain.
Public Utilities is the regulatory agency that sits on the sidelines and keeps an eye on the process and independently audits it and analyzes it and says, yes, what they propose is legitimate, yes, you will realize these savings, yes, they've gone through the proper steps of the engineering, we validate it, and then we move forward.
And Honeywell's been.
So how would you like us
Been
to
around
move forward with Ms. Allen? Because I agree that Ms. Allen should, I mean, if I would have realized, I would have.
I mean, if Ms. Allen is the only obstacle, I think you should maybe call her tomorrow, I guess. I don't know.
Let's call her.
I don't wanna-
Yeah,
I don't know if she's busy tomorrow, but I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I within like, 30 minutes, I'm sure I can quickly explain. I'll take her through the presentation.
She understands.
Yeah, she knew about this because we talked about it, and her only question really was, how do we get the money?
Right.
Because, you see the word bonds, you automatically think, referendum and so forth. So, what we can do is, I think it'd be great if you want to talk to her directly, that wouldn't be a problem. I'll text her or call her on the drive home
If I
to have a
may,
conversation.
Dr. Chandy, I want to quickly, Chrissy, I don't know if you remember this from the last presentation that Honeywell made. They work with Old Bridge and East Brunswick, and for both the schools, their annual savings was 1.86 for Old Bridge and 2.65 for East Brunswick schools. So I think that's what gave us some confidence to move the
Yeah.
conversation along. And I agree with Dr. Chandy, let's not, drag this too long if we can get Ms. Allen to.
Right, because I can have this conversation if the committee would like me to move forward on Thursday morning and Thursday evening. You can make a motion.
Well, I just feel that we need to have some sort of a plan. It sounds like a great idea. It sounds like it would be beneficial, but I think we need to have an idea of exactly what we're getting involved in. What projects are we looking to fund with the cost savings?
They come up with that.
That's part of the process, Chrissy, so that gets determined after we engage with them.
Yes. They look at every single school and everything we own, you know, the golf courses will be part of the project, right? I would imagine we own the building. They should look at everything that we own because you never know where we can save money. So they create what we're getting involved in. You're asking, we can't, it's like putting the cart before the horse. They need to look at the whole organization, all of the buildings that we own. And then they come back to us and say, you can save X amount of dollars if you do A, B, C, and D. But you only be able to afford A, B, and C, or B, C, and D, or A, B, C, whatever we decide. So we won't know your answer, Chrissy, until after we engage them.
And we'll have a few different meetings that everyone can partake in, you know, whatever way it works
Yeah,
for
probably.
the district, where we like do a review of, hey, here's all the things we're seeing, and we'll get comments. Well, here's how we think solar's gonna play out. What do you think? You'll have to do a resolution if you wanna go to RFP for a solar project.
Right.
Like there'll be different steps where we'll get checked, we'll have input, and it's not a project till we finish our investment grade audit, we get the financing, and we decide what's in it, right? So it's got a long time, you know, I mean, I think you want to move as fast as you can based on the timing in the summer and all that. But, and I know you have projects already in your head that you know that you need done and are waiting. So, but there is different times where we talk and collaborate in this. It's not like we just come back, it's your project. Like, we're just here to like show you and then project manage it, make sure it goes in, as we said. There's also a guarantee of savings, like we didn't really talk about that
Yeah, I
much.
think JD.
But there is a guarantee of savings, so you have a choice whether you want the guarantee or not, like we'll go through with you what that means. But about 50% take the guarantee, where it's like a certain amount of money for us to come, look at all your bills again, verify and show you the savings, you know, over each year. So you can keep that as long as you want.
Okay,
So I'm sorry.
all
I
right,
know it's
thank you
been
very
long.
much.
No, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I look forward to being back and answering any of your questions, and I will get in touch with you to get in touch with the administrator. Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
Thank you.
Chrissy, you staying for
Okay,
later?
the second item on the agenda is the Applegarth School Projects Update.
Yes, so committee was provided with timeline. Just take a step back and let you know process. Committee may recall back in May, we requested to put some applications into the ROD grant program. At that same time, the board received additional state aid, that amount of about $1 million, which we had to appropriate by June 30th. And we had talked with the committee and the board. The decision was we would use those monies to do the design for Applegarth and Applegarth roofs and HVAC, realizing that we were applying for those through the ROD grant. The ROD grant came through, great, we are really ahead of the curve. If the ROD grant doesn't come through, the board is committed to saving those schools, so the designs are a worthwhile investment. So we started those designs. With that money, we applied for the ROD grants. As you know, we were awarded the ROD grants in the fall. We received our final eligible cost letters, and we just recently received the service agreements, which we're working on the package for that. Part of that, as you know, was the shared service agreement with the township, where they're contributing their piece.
Which is now approved.
So again, being ahead of the curve, we selected the 1936 building roof project as a standalone project because that is the most needy roof and also is the roof that is really not impacted by the HVAC work. The 1960 to 79 and 83 buildings will all be impacted by the HVAC work. Roof curbs, cutting through the roof, et cetera. You don't want to put roofs on and then come back and do the HVAC work afterwards. The other big component is to upgrade the electric service there for the 1936 building. It's a 1200 amp service. We need a 2000 amp service to run the new equipment and systems. That is a lengthy process as well. So we said, let's isolate that as well because we're looking at a 9 to 12 month lead time to get the transformer and switchgear, et cetera, for those projects. Those projects we've already designed and bid, as you know, we've received bids. They're right in line with where they need to be. We're holding on awarding those contracts or presenting them to the board to recommend for award until we finalize the SDA agreements. One of the things you'll see on Thursday night is a simple resolution that Jackie Shamus, bond counsel, has put together. In the SDA package that we just received, They require a resolution that specifically authorizes our architect of record to work on this specific project. Board appointed the architect of record in June for district services, and that's what we proceeded with. The state being a stickler said, well, we want a resolution that says they're assigned to do these particular projects. So it's just, as Jackie said, it's belt and suspenders. So you'll have that resolution tomorrow night. When we get that resolution, we submit that to the state. State gets back to us with the SDA agreement. We award for this summer, the 1936 building roof project, which will be a turnkey. We'll do the entire project this summer. And then we will also award the electric project, which will do minimal work there this summer, run some conduits inside the building, process submittals, and then it's a sit and wait until we get a transformer and a switchgear, which will come in probably next April, May, somewhere in that time range. And then next summer, we'll put in the electric upgrades. We are currently still in design for the 1960, 79, 83 roofs, along with the HVAC package. Those two mesh together. So we can't necessarily go ahead and bid the roofs until we know where all of the HVAC pieces of equipment are landed, because the roof is designed around those. So the schedule that you see before you addresses those projects, the HVAC and those three roofs. We are in bid doc preparation now through the end of June. The HVAC and through July for the roofs. We will advertise for bid for HVAC in July, and we will advertise in early August for the roofs. We will award the HVAC in August, award the roofs in September of '24. We then have material procurement for those jobs. Again, getting all the HVAC equipment. Can't do the roofs until we have the roof curbs. Those are the things the HVAC equipment sits on. So we'll be processing submittals, shop drawings, et cetera, in September, October. They will release orders. That material comes in time for next summer so that we can redo the roofs with the HVAC curbs set in place. And when the HVAC equipment comes in, that then gets set on top.
Are any of those AC units backlogged the way the switchgear is, or?
That's the reason we're bidding it this summer and won't have it until next summer. So the majority of the work will be done next summer. But again, we'll have the electric service in place. You set the unit, you connect to the new electric service. It's a really nice way to just step from one to the other.
Because we're anticipating that if we waited, we wouldn't have it.
Right. And if we were like other districts where we didn't have that money, hadn't started on design, we would now just be getting started on design. And we'd probably be about a year behind.
Mhm,
So
good.
about a
That's
year
excellent.
ahead of cycle.
That was a good thought that we did.
So to the public's concern, when is this work gonna be
Yep.
done? Primarily in the summer. The heavy lifting, the heavy work will be done in the summer, and it'll filter into what we call substantial completion and final completion into September, October of 2025. But a lot of it is contingent upon HVAC equipment. So we might have roofs in, curb set, and like across the street, be waiting for a unit to come to be set in place.
Okay.
Is there any anticipation of that, or can we order them ahead of time, or?
We can order them once we contract for them. So
Gotcha.
the contractor's gonna wanna get this stuff,
So use the bid. Okay. Okay.
so.
Okay.
Okay, no,
That gives you an overview and a schedule we can post for the public. I know there've been some inquiries on that.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Chrissy, you good?
I think that's fantastic. I'm very excited to get that roof done. That's the roof that has the most leaks that we're replacing this summer?
It's over the original.
No more kicking the can down the road.
And we
And the gun.
picked up the can and we threw it in the garbage pail,
Yes.
and then we got a new can.
Okay, third item on the agenda is the high school digital sign that hasn't worked for a while. So
Yes.
I know we had a warranty question the last
And
time.
then Jerry's done some work,
Contractor
we've been
came
talking about a
out
couple
in
weeks.
February, to do an evaluation of it. They got the sign powered up. I was actually saw them light it up again the other day. They indicated that it may be a software problem, so our internal district staff, tech staff, did a complete download of new software onto the machine. It's a wireless transmission between the 2 points. The scoreboard lights up and says, waiting message.
That's it.
They type the message in here, thing fizzles out over there. So we've talked to the manufacturer, Golden Rule Sign, and they basically said, well, we don't manufacture parts for this anymore. Could be this particular module. They are looking to see if they can get us a replacement module. If not, high school had previously priced a replacement sign. You're looking anywhere in the range of $60,000, $70,000 for a new digital sign, depending on.
And we didn't have the warranty that we discussed. It
No,
wasn't
so
under
the
warranty.
warranty is expired.
It's
So that sign is going on 14 years old. So some of the parts are 5-year warranty and some 10 were at year.
We're done.
What is the
60
new
to
sign
70,000 dollars.
Oh, not the park,
The sign.
Well, you can say that there.
And I'm gonna say very honestly
Save money.
that it's not just an unimportant thing. The high school sign is really a main area where people look for information. They look for acknowledgements when children's names are on there, events, activities, the vote being April 16th, you know, these things. So that's a lot of money.
That's all, that's.
We're not in that boat yet. He's gotta see if they have that part. That would be great.
This has been dragging on for how many months?
Is there any other companies that would?
It's almost a year. It's May, I think, is a year that it'll be off.
Did they give you a date when they're gonna give you this information? Are they even reliable that they're gonna even give you this information?
Was this sign that gave us some trouble on the turf field, the same vendor? I know we got that fixed during the season,
No, different sign
Are you
manufacturer,
doing the scoreboard?
the scoreboard, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, not the
different sign.
sign.
No, I know what you meant.
Different company,
Yes.
different manufacturer.
Different manufacturer, different
Yes.
vendor, so. Other schools have a similar sign, like the high school,
Mhm.
different manufacturer, different vendors.
Yeah,
Could we
different
reach out
use,
to
different
them
brand.
to see if they have a solution for us? Good faith, maybe,
So the vendor that we had come out, Marcolade, is not the manufacturer.
okay.
They are, consider them like an appliance repair company. So they work on
All
signs.
All
The
the-
Golden Rule is the manufacturer of that sign, has the proprietary components, which
Okay.
is the component that you need.
So they would have to purchase it from the
Yes,
manufacturer.
we would purchase it and have it
So
installed.
we don't know if it's available because of its year. But the high school sign and now the new middle school is even older.
That's right, and the oak tree sign goes back. to
And we get it, I mean, we have our little bumps when it rains, we have little issues, but it works.
And the oak tree sign, I believe, was only
2008, and that still works.
2008, but it was nowhere near 50 or $60,000. I mean, perhaps we look at quotes for, you know, a smaller scale sign. I mean, the high school sign is very large, and I don't know if we would be able to use the, you know, the casing above it and maybe put something in the middle, or if that's all just one piece. But, you know, at this point, you know, maybe we need to look at something, you know, at a smaller scale. It has been used for a lot of announcements at the high school. I mean, it's the only school then in our district that doesn't have an electronic sign. And I know one thing that has been mentioned to me by some high school parents is that, you know, it was a source of information. It would tell you when you had to do things for the senior class, when you had to order your cap and gown, when you had to, a reminder to order your senior yearbook. Every month it would have listed all of the students of the month. So it was used as a bulletin board, in essence, for the high school, and a reminder for a lot of things coming up, as all the other schools do. So, you know, it's been out a year, and or almost a year. And if we can't, if we can't fix it, I think we have to look at something, you know, moving forward, some other type of solution for it.
But, well, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, but a manufacturer will not warranty their product if you put it in another case. It has to be one unit that they design. Correct? You can't put someone
No, so you
else's sign in
can
that
use,
case.
so the proposal that the high school got for replacing that sign reuses certain
For
components of it.
$60,000?
Yes, so the cost is in,
Wow.
the cost difference in the sign, it's very much like a TV. Depends how many pixels you're gonna have on the sign, how many lines, how large the letters are, those kind of things. That's what dictates. It's very much like a TV.
So the cost of 60,000 was based upon utilizing currently what's there and then creating the pixel, you know, what would be a picture 2 years ago, whatever.
Mr. Tig, would you remember, gotta be within this past decade, because I was on the PTA then, the money that we gave to the Brookside principal was used for the electronic sign outside.
Correct.
Was that, and I know we couldn't give $60,000, we gave $10,000.
Right.
Did the district contribute the rest, or was $10,000 what they used for the sign? Because I kind of remember that sign was attributed to the PTA fundraising. And I know we only gave them $10,000 to $12,000. So do you know what the cost of that sign was, and how small is it compared with this one?
It is definitely smaller, definitely does not have the amount of characters and, Some of that is dictated by, when you look at signs, there's guidelines for the traffic on the road, how fast it's going, therefore each character should be a certain font size, if it's to be read, things, you don't have to follow those, but those are the recommended guidelines.
For it to
And
be
then-
properly seen, otherwise you can't read it.
So this is the size and the cost, there's, we
If
won't
you
get
wanna,
skilled in
if you
that.
wanna match that, you're looking in the $60,000 range. If you wanna scale it down, it will incrementally decrease.
Could we maybe get 3 quotes and have the committee review them?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe, somebody wants to, put their name on the bottom of the sign and, we can get a
That's also.
sponsorship. No,
It's always a possibility.
something,
Many
Yeah,
districts
because
go that route.
Acknowledge the.
Probably want to make sure you
yeah,
have
even if you have 3 donors and you put the 3 names and you use that fancy machine over at the high school to create the names and put it on the bottom.
CNC router.
Yeah, there you go. I'm just trying to think out of the box, I don't know.
We definitely need a
All right,
sign.
does
That-
anybody have any other questions,
No,
comments?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaser.
Thank you.
Have
a good night.